with a recruitment consultancy, or how to build a trustful relationship, there are a couple of steps beforehand you need to prepare for yourself, and you need to be aware of before you share your career path with a third party. So my idea for today is actually to start a little bit different. So I don't want to go straight to working with the recruitment consultancy section, but I thought after introducing myself and also the recruitment company that I'm working at, Robert Walters, I would like to give you, 3 steps that you need to prepare for yourself. And then at the end, I would like to share with you the maybe best way to work with a recruitment consultancy. So at the very beginning, I think you have to think about how to, what's the reason, how to prepare my application process. Why do I want to change my role? What's the current job situation that I'm in, and why do I want to change something? So that's very important, because you can't go ahead. I mean, you can, but then at the middle of your way, you will find some difficulties, or you get some questions that you need to answer. So at the very beginning, you have to be clear. Where are you? What do you want? What do you expect to happen job-wise in the next few months? And once this is, prepared, the next step would be your CV, that all your professional experience is, of course, obviously on your CV. So you get your CV done, you prepare your interview process, and there's an interview cycle. So you have to get familiar a little bit with that. And then, of course, and this is a question that's important for everyone who is in an interview process, how to negotiate my salary. How do I know how much I'm worth? How do I know how to, find arguments for the salary that I want, for the package that I want, and how do I process on that? And once this is set up, I think you can then start thinking about speaking to companies or working with a recruitment consultancy. And what's really important for me today is that, first of all, if you have any questions, raise your hands up. You can write them down, or you can just put your hands up and then you can ask. It's an open conversation, and it's important that you ask questions, because, and Simona will help to organize this question round. So don't wait until the end, because if we are at the topic right now and you want to know something, just make sure that we see you and that you can ask your question. Because everything that I share with you today is, it's something that I experience with my team within our Robert Walters work, because we speak with a lot of candidates every day, and this is what we see on the market. If you ask 5 other recruitment consultancies or 5 other HR people, they might give you a little bit different advice, because it's their views. So that's why I try to bring together the most important steps during an application or interview process. And I kept it quite theoretical, because I think it's all about your questions at the end. So examples, I can bring up examples if you ask a lot of questions, so that we can, fill it with a little bit live. And then I just hope that everything that you expect will be covered. If not, again, please feel free to ask. So we will start with how to prepare my application process, interview cycle, salary negotiation, and at the end, I hope that we will find a way to work with the right recruitment consultancy. So I would like to introduce you to Robert Walters. Robert Walters is the world's leading specialist professional recruitment group. We are spanning around 31 countries with over than 50 cities. So we are specialists in a couple of different fields. Robert Walters, our CEO, has built his company 1985 in UK. And we have 3 brands, Robert Walters, and we are within Robert Walters specialized in perm recruitment and senior professional level. We have Walters People, which is based on, staffing, in some countries even junior roles. And then we have our outsourced resource solution, which is an outsourced brand. So within these 3 brands, we try to cover all the topics that you actually have within recruitment. You can see here we are in different countries around the world since 1985. And with this presence, we have a lot of experience, which we would like to share also with candidates and clients. In Germany, we opened our first office in 2010 in Düsseldorf. The next one was Frankfurt, then Hamburg, and now Cologne. And we are specialized in different sections or disciplines by banking, financial services, finance and accounting, IT, digital sales and marketing, HR, and supply chain. I'm leading, or before I'm actually going to that, just one thing that's really important is that we try to be very innovative with our technologies. So everything that I'm saying, or if we even get in touch with our candidates, this happens through different channels. So we try to meet them or give them hints through our salary checker app. We have different AI tools which we use in order to get the informations we need and the information that I share with you. So there are a lot of things that we try to from the technology side to reach out to improve our business, but also to reach out to serve our knowledge to our clients and candidates. I'm now 12 years in business. I finished my master degree in marketing and international business. I'm 38 years old. I have a little 2-year-old boy and expecting another little baby soon. And I'm working now almost 9 years at Robert Walters. The thing is that Robert Walters is actually based on the, let's say, philosophy that the people that are recruiting come from a specific sector that they recruit for, also for the clients. So I worked when I finished my university on the marketing side. And then 9 years ago, I actually started as a head of marketing for Germany and Switzerland at Robert Walters. So my job was actually to build up a brand online and offline for the brand Robert Walters in Germany and Switzerland. I have grown up a team, and with that knowledge, at that time, we actually thought about, okay, especially the topic online is coming. So we need someone who is expert in that field to be able to sell that also to clients or to speak to candidates from that field. So I have been asked if I want to go, through a new challenge, and I took over that role as a team head for digital sales and marketing. And with that time in the last years, and since innovation and digitalization has progressed, I took a second team over, which is technology. And within that role, my team and I do recruit candidates within different digital sales, digital marketing, but also tech roles. I try to, summarize a couple of roles that we are recruiting at. So I hope that some of them are familiar with you. The whole presentation is actually based on general information. So at the end, if you want to get connected with me as well, or if you have questions on, specific roles within tech, IT, digital marketing, or sales, I'm the right person to help with. If you have specific questions when it comes to finance, banking, engineering, or supply chain, I'm not sure if I can help when it comes to that, because I have colleagues and other teams who are doing that. So just drop me a line here or get connected via LinkedIn, and I will connect you with my colleagues and they can help you within that discipline. if there are no questions on that, I just go ahead and would like to speak with you a little bit about the application process. 1 year ago, we started a survey and asked on the German market over 1,000 candidates about their career goals. So what is your career goal? What do you expect from your career environment? And the top 3 answers have been, to make sure that I'm happy within my career, I need to, have a clear career path and promotions. I need to be able to see that there is a promotion to a next level possible. That was number 1. Number 2 was job happiness. I want to be happy in my role. I want to be happy at the company that I'm working with. I want to be happy with not only the content of my role, but the environment, like my colleagues. And number 3 has been very typical work-life balance. And throughout the pandemic situation, even the work-life balance and the flexibility has been more, of course, important for candidates. So this is what they expect. And if these 3, goals that I just mentioned, promotion, job happiness, and work-life balance, if this is not, visible for you, or for most of the candidates, you start looking for a new role. And this is what you have to think about at the very first sight when you start to prepare your application process. Most of the question, or when I ask candidates, when we speak or open up an interview, what is your motivation? Why do you want to change your current situation? Or what needs to be changed? A lot of them don't really have a clear answer because they haven't thought about. Then, there are sometimes answers like, I'm not happy with my salary, or I have to think about it, maybe it's boring, but it's not a really clear thought behind it. So what I advise you, before you start applying for a role, before you start going to an interview, make yourself a pro and con list about your current job situation. Where are you right now at the company and the role that you are, working with? Like, what do you need? What is working good? What is working not that good? And what needs to be changed to make you happy? And write down these examples and find out if at the end, is it the role that needs to be changed? Or is it the company that needs to be changed? Is it the sector that doesn't make you happy? So you have to make it clear for yourself, because if it's not clear for you, and if you can't express this to yourself, how do you want to speak in an interview with other people about it? Because that's a question that you always get answered. And I guess that most of you as MBA students or professionals, experienced professionals, have been through job interviews already. So you know that this will be a question, why do you want to change your role? Why did you apply on that role in our company? So make sure that this is clear for you. And if you find out at the end of your pro and cons that it's not, maybe it's not the company is good, you like the colleagues, you like a boss, it's maybe the task, or maybe it's just the role and you could imagine to move to another role. Just open a conversation with your employer, with your boss, with your team head, and ask them if there's any possibilities to change and what would make you happy to change your role and what's important for you. So that's number one. Make sure that you are aware of how you feel and what needs to be changed. And once you are sure that it's not the right company and it needs to be a different environment, start your market research. Look at, online on different links, like, for example, Stepstone, or even when you look on LinkedIn or Xing or different market tools where you find out about new companies. Yeah. Just make sure that you find the sector that you would like to work with. Get a little bit familiar with the role that you want to at the end do in the sector that you wish for. Is it a tech company? Is it FMCG? So whatever. So just make sure that you make a little bit of research. That's really important. Find out what kind of role you want to do. Look what's expected in that role. Go on the job descriptions that you find online on the website, on the job boards, or on the website of the companies, and look what they expect from you when you entering finance, marketing, IT, or whatever. And just double check with where are you with your experience? Does it work? Is this something that would make you happy? So just review everything and make sure that your market research is done. And then also think about which city do you want to move? Like if you live, for example, we are now in Düsseldorf here, or I'm based in Düsseldorf. If you live, for example, in Düsseldorf and you look for a role in Cologne, are you able to, go to every day, even digital world expanding, are you able to commute to Cologne on a daily basis if this is expected? Or even if you feel like, okay, I'm working, in the west of Germany, but I would like to move to Berlin because I like Berlin, then make sure that you are aware of the changes that a new city in a different part of Germany comes along with. This is something that I will talk about later when it comes to salaries, because salary in Munich is different than a salary in Berlin because of the circumstances, because of the environment. And that's something that you have to be aware of. That's something that you have to prepare for yourself. So if all these things are prepared for yourself, if you're aware, then you can actually start applying for a role, because the next step would be starting with your CV, starting with interviews. And then you can also always go back and resettle yourself and think about, okay, why do I want to change? What does make me happy in my role? Because if I agree on a role, I don't want to change. Ideally, I don't want to change that soon again. So make sure that this is all set up. Is there any question on this section when it comes to, preparing yourself on either when it comes to the pro and cons list, or even when you make your market researches? Good. Then I move forward, because the next step would be very basic, but really, really important. And I know most of you maybe think, okay, that's basic. I know that. CV check. What does it mean? But believe me, this is a topic that we always have, because once you start your interview preparation, you have to look at your CV. And the most, interesting part is that when I look, and you have to imagine, I'm speaking at least to one person, at least a day. I'm interviewing one person a day, which makes 5 people a week. And then you can't count on, a month and so on. And we have, with my team, we share the insights that we have. So there are a lot of candidates, a lot of CVs we see, a lot of candidates we speak with, a lot of candidates where we negotiate the salaries with. So the most, often topic we have is we check the CVs and we see a lot of errors. Someone has an error in the years of the role. So you see there's a lack of 5 months and they don't explain it, or there is, overlap between 2 roles, which doesn't make sense. And then you look on social media and then you see, oh, there's a station missed. So that's really important, because nowadays it's like every company can easily check when they have your CV and you applied for a role. They can just simply go on LinkedIn and check what's your activity there and what are you actually, listening, like what companies, how is your CV looking there on social media. So make sure that your CV, your paper CV and the CV that you have on social media fits and it's same and it's similar. Because if you have, different informations on your CV and different informations on social media, that will be a question mark. Also, when it comes to titles, is the title that you have on your CV the same title that you have on social media? And make sure, in Germany, it's very common that you get Arbeitszeugnisse, references. So make sure that the numbers or the years of work you have in your references are the same with your CV or vice versa, because that can bring a lot of issues as well. If you this is more a legal topic, which I don't go deeply into it, but I just want to, make you aware that if you are not honest with the data on your CV and a company hires you with, the knowledge that they get from your CV, but at the end, there are some stations maybe missing, or you extended a station at a company that hasn't been, you haven't been there 2 years, you just have been 1 year, that's legally not allowed. So this can cause issues in the case that the company, your employer, finds this out. So make sure that you avoid mistakes, miscommunications. Just make sure that your CV is right. And also, when it comes to your CV, if you have your current working situation with your title, bring in a lot of information, the core informations of your daily business. What's your responsibilities? Are you, do you own a P&L? Do you take care of a budget? Try, to bring, if you're in finance, try to bring numbers in it. If you're in sales, bring numbers in it. If you are in IT, try to show your technical knowledge. What kind of systems are you working with? What did you actually reach in your last project, and all these things. Things, of course, that you can explain, but make sure that you fill your CV with life, because at the end, if someone reads your CV, it needs to be very clear, no question marks. It needs to be very clear and understandable what you're doing. And don't make it too innovative. If you are not in design, just keep your CV simple with the most important information. There are some candidates who try to, be outstanding by having page 1 a very big picture, page 2 something about, who I am, what's my personal skills, and a lot of content. But then number 3 or page number 3 or 4, they start with the actual CV. That's too much. Bring it down to the limit, but bring it really to the point. That's the most important thing to, catch someone's attention. So that's something that you have to really be clear for and have to make sure that this works. Otherwise, go again through it and look at it and try to work it out a little bit. It takes time, but once you have done it, that's a great thing, because the most work is actually done. And then you have to think about, how do you prepare yourself for a CV, for an interview? So you apply for a role, and it doesn't matter if it's a recruiter or a company. You need to make sure who's the person that you speak with. So, because if it's HR, you have, maybe a little bit different content than if you are speaking with the line manager or the hiring manager. So make yourself aware of this, ask for it if it's not clear, and then, very simple nowadays, check on LinkedIn the profile of the person that you're working with, because it always helps to find out. Maybe you find out that this person has worked in the same company as you did a couple of years ago, or you have the same interests or whatever. These informations, it's good to know, because sometimes they help. All of a sudden you're in a conversation and feel like, I could bring that in. So make sure that you are prepared on that. And then practice. speaking out your CV. This sounds really, really simple, but we have candidates that, and it doesn't matter if you have 2 years working experience or 10 years working experience, candidates who are not able to actually go through their CV and explain what they are doing by giving examples or explaining why did they change their role? Why did they go from Aeon to RWE? What was the reason? Why did they move on? So make sure that you are aware. And if there are reasons that you are not, comfortable with because you feel like, in that role, I was not really happy with my boss and we didn't come along. Be open about it because it's at the end, there's a question mark if you can't explain it. If you feel like, it was a big team and it was very chaotic and I didn't know how to, communicate my stuff and it was not organized. Just, try to figure it out how to communicate it. Of course, try not to be too negative, but don't hide any information because at the end there will be questions. And if you can't answer these questions, and even if you are not honest, it might happen that, you struggle around and this accrues for more problems. So go through your CV and speak out loud and practice how to explain your CV and your role and your daily task. And what's really important is that, and this is a question that we get asked very, very often, in the case that, for example, how can I, what questions do I need to expect from HR or line manager? I don't know, to be honest, because there are always, there are different people. So different people ask different questions. There are a couple of questions that remain the same, like why did you change? What's your salary expectation? Why did you apply for that role? How do you work in a team? Have you ever, if it's a leading role, how many people did you lead? What's your expectation on that? There are a couple of general questions, but at the end, you can't prepare yourself for every question. So the most important thing here is that read again the job description and look if there are any, is there, for example, if there is anything that is similar to your CV so that you can build a bridge on or connect the roles. So for example, if you work in IT and you actually want to start in a company and build up a IT desk or a landscape, or you just want to build up a division, then, and you ask questions, then with that, you can actually say, okay, there's a reference to my current role because I know that system already. I have done that already. And the same with finance and the same with marketing. So just check what's the expectation on that job description that you applied for. Is there anything that you have already done? And is there anything that you can, connect with that new role? Talk about it. Always, try to build a bridge so that the people that are sitting in front of you feel a connection and feel like, oh, okay, he or she knows what she or he is talking about. Okay, this is familiar. This is a buzzword that we know. This is a system that we are working with. So try to bring everything together. That's really important. And then ask questions. Ask questions as many as you can, because at the end, and there are also very basic questions like how big is your team? What's the daily structure? How often do you work in nowadays? How often do you work in the office? How's the remote work? Okay, these questions are fine, but think a little bit more deeper about the role itself. Get your head into that role. What needs to be done in that role? Is this, for example, a replacement, or is this a new completely hire? If this is new hire, why is it a new hire? Why do you need to open up this role actually? if this is a replacement, what happened with the person before? What is your expectation if I start the role tomorrow? What's, the long-term view? What kind of systems do you work with actually? For example, if you're marketing, are you working with an agency? If you're saying you need someone for SEO or SEA or online marketing, what's the current situation? Who is working on that? If you are working for a consultancy, or if you apply for a consultancy role, who are the clients actually? Or what's the system that you, or the service that you offer in that particular department for your client? So, what kind of connections do I have with other departments? So try to be very deeply into, in the world of this company that you are sitting or have the interview with, because that shows that you put your head, that you got actually prepared for that role. And also, this sounds really simple, but even if you have the first interview with recruitment or HR, the second interview with a line manager, and you feel like, okay, I asked already a couple of questions, it doesn't matter. Ask them again, because the line manager or the hiring manager might not know what kind of questions you asked. So repeat them, because a different person might give you a different answer with a different perspective. So make sure that you get prepared, write your questions down. There's no, that's not a problem at all if you have your questions on a paper for a face-to-face interview. And nowadays most of the interviews are, at least in the first round, digital, so you can have a paper with your notes beside your desktop, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. But that's really important, because without the questions, there are candidates and you have there's a big competitive market. So if you don't ask the questions, someone else, and this shows that maybe someone else put their head into that role. So make sure that you actually are prepared for that interview section. And then when it comes to the maybe second or third interview rounds, of course, there will new questions come up. So don't stop asking questions. And when it comes to the question of salary or contract, or how does it work? How do you work here? It depends. I wouldn't ask that as a very first question, obviously, but it depends. If, for example, your hiring manager just wants to sense check at the end if the information of the salary is right, you can, let them know what you expect. And most of the time, the first interview is not really a salary negotiation. So if they don't make it up as a topic, just try to, keep calm. Don't open that topic, because I think it needs a next round, a second round, to get a better view of that role, and then you can actually go ahead with that.
Atena?
Yeah.
We have an anonymous question, I guess, about this part. The question is referring to sharing your honest reason of changing a job, because you mentioned that. For instance, the boss was not good or is not appreciating my work. The question is, don't you think that being too honest works against you in most of the times?
Yeah, it's a good question, because this happens. You have to think about, and I have to, go 2 steps back to explain my answer right now, because you have to imagine there are 2 human beings who come together, and we feel like, it always needs to fit. And if it doesn't work, it's my, as a candidate or as an employee, it's my problem, or it's my fault that it doesn't work. So first of all, it's not. So you have to think about what's the reason. So you already made up your mind, you want to change your role. So that's why you're sitting there, and you have to explain the change. And it depends, sometimes you have someone in front of you where you can be honest and say, okay, it just didn't work. He or she expected something that I couldn't come along with, because, and then you have to give reasons from your daily business. If it's, of course, very personal, I can understand that you don't want to talk about. But if it's job related, because you say my boss said, you know, before 5 in the evening, I have to prepare a presentation and I have to prepare it for the next 2 hours, and I already had a full agenda, then you can explain it. If this happens and occurs, 3 times a week, or if you are in a meeting and you try to involve yourself to bring yourself in, but you have the feeling that your boss is not listening, then you can bring up these things, you can bring up these examples. I think, and again, this is something you ask 5 people, you might get 5 different answers. But I think to be honest is always the best, because at the end, it's your personality, it's who you are, and you can't change yourself. And if this, something that you feel like you have to answer, you have to explain, that you feel annoyed if you're sitting at a table in a meeting with 5 people and you try to say something, but your boss avoids you listening to you, then you should say something. And if it doesn't work at the end, okay, you have to think about, you can change, or you have always, a big issue in the meeting. So I think to be honest, it's really important. It depends. If you are sitting in your first interview and you feel like, okay, I can't really talk about it, or if you're already beforehand, you don't want to talk about it because it's a sensitive topic, then think about something else. But don't start thinking about this situation during that interview, because that brings you in trouble. Then you stop talking, and everyone actually realizes okay, this is a question that obviously touched this person. So make sure that you write down and think about it. Why do I actually want to change? Because of my boss? Then you can make up something else that makes you more comfortable. And again, it's not a lie, then don't lie, but make sure that you come with an argument that brings you, in a better situation. You can, for example, say that we had a lot of projects, and I actually covered all the projects before, so it's a repeat. So I feel like I'm not learning anymore. I want to learn, and this is something, I'm in a situation right now where I do not learn. I can't move forward, and I have to move forward in order to progress. So that's the reason why I want to change. And that's it. So make it simple, don't make it complicated, write it down beforehand, and then I think it shouldn't be an issue. If you feel connected with the person that you are in an interview with, then I think it's not a problem, to be honest. So it really depends who you are, what kind of person you are, and if you feel comfortable to be honest with these kind of topics. And if it's, for example, a very basic thing, like you are 5 years in a company and you feel like, okay, there's no salary movement anymore, or I reached the limit of my role, there's nothing else next on my career. So that's also a topic, so you can actually mention that. So it's just prepare yourself, write it down what you want to say, and don't start thinking about it during that interview. It was a quite long answer with different answer possibilities, but I hope that it kind of answered the question of that person.
I hope so too. And we have another question, actually. So if I may, then this is actually quite interesting question, and it's about concerning preparation for an interview that actually includes potential future colleagues. So the question is, can you share any insights on what is ideally being expected from that interaction, meaning an interview with potential future colleagues?
So how you actually deal with that and how you behave if you're sitting with people that might work with you in the future?
I assume that is what the person is asking.
Okay, So from my understanding, you want to know if you feel like, is it a good idea or not, and how do you behave in that interview? To be honest, I think that's good, because you can also ask straight questions back. If a company is open for that and says, and this is something that I do with my team too, before I bring someone in, I'll, bring the other team members and ask them to share their daily lives with them, because I can speak about a lot of things about our daily life, but from a different perspective. And someone who's actually sitting next to you and doing maybe the same role or a similar role, or someone that you actually need to work with very close, might be even more important for you than your boss, because you meet your boss maybe twice a week, but the other person 5 days a week. So I think, first of all, that's a good sign, because the company is showing transparency. So use that and find out how transparent they actually are. So ask again, and you see it's all about question, and I might repeat myself during the next 30 minutes a lot of times. So ask questions again. What's your daily business? How do you deal with, try to be positive at the beginning, of course, like what's your daily business? What kind of programs do you work with? What's the company culture? So divide it into 2 sections, working and job related questions, but company related questions or department related questions, of course. What's the team spirit? So things that are important for you, ask them, go ahead and ask them, and feel free to ask them and to actually ask them. If you feel like you would actually you have to be sensitive when it comes to the way how you question or how you put your sentence together. Of course, you are actually the person who is who's been interviewing, so or who's been interviewed. So try to be positive, but you can ask critical questions as well, because this shows how you actually put yourself into it. Like, how do you deal with issues? How do you deal with time pressure if you have to submit something and it doesn't work? What's the team doing? How do you deal as, personally or as a team with this? So again, it's a good sign. Use it for your own advantage and ask questions. And usually if someone participates from the team, so you have the situation or you have the possibility to prepare yourself beforehand. And if not, and this is all of the sudden situation, someone comes in and says, hi, I might be your future colleague, that's fine. Just ask questions about the job itself and the company environment, and hopefully that helps you.
Okay, so we have 2 more questions about this part. It's from Olena and Olga. Maybe Olena can go first, and after that, Olga.
Hi, Olena. I think you are still muted, maybe.
Or maybe Olga can go ahead first.
Okay, hi, Atena. Olga speaking from Poland, from Warsaw.
Hi.
Yeah, it's not only German team.
That's good. Don't ask me about salaries in Poland, please. But
no salary, nothing. No, I need your advice actually, because I worked in one company which is quite popular, like people know this company, and that company had financial problems. They could not pay salary in a proper time, and I still have signed with them NDA. So generally, I cannot share why did I leave this company, because they can pay me. Yes. So normally, I just don't know what to answer on this question, because I don't want to be unfair to my previous company, but I want to be open to my potential future employer. So what to do in this case? How shall I,
So you had a non-disclosure agreement. This is the NDA, what you said, with your current company, because they don't want them to, that the market is aware of their financial problems. And now you are looking for a new role, and you can't explain why you are actually changing your role, right? That's the
Yes, because this is similar role, but you know, I just want to change company.
Okay, so you can actually say that whatever you have done, and I totally understand, and even if just for those people who maybe haven't been in that situation, this is really legally an issue. If you talk about something that you have signed, and at the end, if the company finds out, and you know, for some reason, this can bring you in legally problems and trouble. So this is also, it's a good question, and you have to think about if the role is the same, you just speak about the company culture. You can just simply say, and that's okay. You can say, you know, think about if you're working for example, industry company and you want to move into FMCG, or if you're working in a tech company and you want to go into financial services or banking, then maybe you can play around with that and say, I need a sector change, very simple. And even if it's the same sector, you can say it's the environment. I've been working for a couple of years in that company, and I feel like that I can't move forward. The tasks are repeating, and I need something that is more, you know, flexible or even dynamic. I want to move forward. And at the end, that's even true. You want to move forward, but you don't know how because your company have financial problems, right?
Yeah.
So think about, could you actually find an argument about the sector? Can you explain that? Is it a sector change? If yes, bring this up. And if it's the same sector, bring up maybe the environment. You need a different environment. It's not progressing. And maybe, you know, your team is getting a little bit smaller instead of expanding, and you feel like there's no next step, there's no progress. And also when you get asked, what do you mean with next step? You know, that can be a question that get back to you. You can actually explain it's not always about just the career step, but also the next step in the topics. What kind of topics do I cover? And it doesn't matter in which discipline you're working with. But I'm sure that this helps you to avoid talking about the original problem. Does this answer your question, Olga?
More or less, but it's a difficult one, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine, because still there's a conversation and people ask, but again, and this is something that, you know, you have to be sure, and this is all about preparation. You have to prepare yourself beforehand. And if you are comfortable with your CV, with your task, with the reason why you want to change, if you write this down and read it again, then you, in an interview, you show that actually to other people, and people can see it. If you are nervous, if you have question marks, if you're unsure, people can see it. I can see it in interviews, and then because I'm in a different position, you know, I ask candidates then, do you want to be open with me? Because then we can find together a solution for that. I can help you to bring up arguments. Of course, an HR manager in a company wouldn't ask that, but in that situation, they feel if something is wrong or not. So just practice and be sure about your own answer, because you know you can't work for that company anymore, but because otherwise you don't know if you next year have still a job or not, right? So this is enough to look for something else and to find an argument to change that role. And this should actually relax you. I hope it helps.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Maybe we give another chance to Olena, if she can hear us. Olena? Okay. Then maybe we go on.
Okay. If Olena is back, she just let us know, and then we bring her back in.
Maybe can I jump in between, Atena, because we're still on the CV. What's your professional opinion? Is a one-page CV too little and two-page CV too much? What's the golden rule there?
That's also a question that we get asked a lot, and it's difficult because if you have 2 years experience, the CV might look different than someone who has 10 years or 15 years experience. And it doesn't mean that if you have 15 years experience, you have 15 pages. Try to bring it, to the most important things. Bring in numbers, bring in daily challenges, bring in your core task. Everything else needs to be explained during a conversation. And at the end, the person who reads, and I hope that this is the case, the person who reads your CV needs to understand your CV. You don't need to explain a task with 5 sentences, maybe 2 bullet points are enough. So there's no rule if 3 pages or 5 pages, but if you read it on your own, otherwise ask someone in your, your relatives, family, friends, if someone can have a look at it.
Yeah.
Bring your core business into it, and most of the time 4 or 5 bullet points should be enough.
Okay. Okay.
As an overall answer.
Thank you.
Any further questions, or shall I just go ahead?
At least not for now. Not further questions. Yeah.
So we talked about how to prepare your application, how to get yourself ready for your CV and this interview cycle. When who do you meet? How do you get prepared for that? And then, of course, obviously, the salary negotiation is the most important topic for everyone, because at the end of the month, you want to make sure that you get the money that you feel you're worth it. And that's important, because if you're not happy with what you earn, and the definition for earning and salary is in a package, I will explain that, then you are not happy. And this comes back to my entry speech, the reason why people change their role, because of course, progress as well. So salary negotiation means, first of all, and this is also really important, make sure you are aware of your salary. And again, we speak to people and they don't know their salary. They just know, I get maybe 2,250 euro at the end of the month netto, I think, or is it brutto? I don't know. Okay, you should know. You should know. So calculated it's basic, but you should know. And if you get asked, what's your salary? And my team and myself, we always ask, what's your current salary and what do you expect if you change? Because we want to be able to give advice. But in a company, they might ask, what's your salary right now? But they maybe also just ask, what's your salary expectation? So make sure that you say, that you count what's your base salary. Like base salary means fixed salary, 12 months. What is the number there? Is it 50K? Is it 55? Is it 75? What is the number? And then on top of that, what do you get more? Like, is it a company car? Do you get a bonus? How much is the bonus? Just make sure that you know what's your current package, and you should be able to communicate that package, and then think about what makes you happy for the next step. And the thing about the salary, and I have to see if, I talk about this as well. The thing about the package that comes, that you expect is like, of course, you always want to have more. That's obvious, and that's okay, and that's good. But it should be, it should fit to the market. And the most important thing is that you don't just come up with something. Example, if you, and I'm exaggerating right now, but just to make clear what I'm meaning, if you earn 50K, you can't say, I want to have 80K for that role, because maybe it doesn't make sense, of course, but you have to explain it. And don't forget, you speak with people who are familiar with the salaries. If you're talking to a recruitment consultancy, be sure that this person knows the market. So I would say that 90% of the talks and conversations I have, if someone is not honest to me, I know it, at least when we are talking about the German market. That's what I mean. But because, we are again speaking to a lot of, I'm talking at least one candidate, and then my team is talking to candidates, and then we share the insights. So I know what's the market about in the sections that I mentioned earlier, and we know what they earn in agencies, in consultancies, on the industry side, in the different sectors. So we have, a feeling for that. We might miss it with 5 or 10%, that might happen. And there are companies who overpay their employees, which is good, or underpay. So we don't know exactly the right number, but we have a feeling. And this is the same for hiring managers, and this is the same for HR managers. So try to be honest. And if you are not sure what you're worth actually, then go and make a research online. Just type in on Google salary check, or if you are looking in Germany, then Gehaltsstudie, for example. And just to give you an idea, you can check this on our website. Of course, we are doing this salary guide as well. Oh, I already opened it here. Just to give you an idea, you can have a reference check on this page or on other pages at the competitors. That's totally fine. But if you look, for example, on, and let me see if this works right now, on our salary app that we are doing, it should actually work. I don't know why it's not working. Then you get an insight of different salaries that we offer. It's not a good thing to share, but I give it another try. Here we go, digital marketing as an example, and then you can choose your specializations. But what I want to share with you is the way how we actually present a salary. So with the salaries that we have in our salary survey, we give you an idea of what's the current salary as a product owner, for example, with 3 years, 5 years, 6 years salary, professional experience on the German market. So it's a range because it depends on the sector. It depends if you are 3 years or 7 years in that business or in that role. So make a research, have a look, and then we also show different roles within digital marketing, and then you can have just a check, because this maybe helps you to find arguments what's important for you. So just have a look at it later on, or just have a look at different pages. But it's really important that you check your salary if you're not familiar on how you move ahead. And sometimes you say 10% on top is good for a change, sometimes 15%. It really depends, because it's not only the monetary part, it's not only the base salary. Look what makes you happy. Is it the training that can be offered on top, which is also a cost base, or is it a company car for your role that's important? Then this is also a part of the salary package. So think about it and make sure that you are aware of where is your current salary situation and what do you expect. And the do's and don'ts, which I think it's important to be aware of, is beside what you want for that role, is think about also the lowest limit, right? Because it might be that you say, I want to have 70K in my package, and then you get an offer of 65. Is that something that's a pain for you, or is that something that you can live with because they on top tell you after a probation time you get the 70K? So think about what's the lowest limit for you, but again, think about it earlier, not in the middle of the conversation. What do you expect in the package? And this is important because that's why it's important to think about your current situation, what's in that package base, bonus, and all the other items. And how do you find a deal between that? For example, for trainings, when they say we offer you trainings, 2 trainings yearly on the skills that you want to, progress on. So if this makes you happy, that's good, because maybe an external training will cost you 4 or 5K. And if you get that paid, that's wonderful. So just have a check on what's important for you. And again, what does make you happy for that new role? What's really important, don't make up your mind, and this is what we also had in the middle of the recruitment process. So if you set a number at the beginning, don't just put 20K on top at the end because you feel like, oh, you know what, that's actually, I feel like that's even better. That makes me happy. If you feel like there's something wrong because the information that I got at the beginning are not the same that I have right now, because it's actually a team lead role and not just, maybe a manager role, or it's a senior consultant role and not a consultant role, then you can ask for it. You can see how you can actually go into it, but try not to just, bring something up in the middle of process that brings up a question mark. We recently had a project where, for example, a candidate gave us a number and we made sure that this is, accurate. We spoke about everything that needs to be in the package. And then we, of course, forwarded this information to our client. They had 3 interviews, everything was fine. And they talked about, at the very beginning, they said, okay, this is the salary that we have. Is this okay? Yes, that's okay. And in the final stage, the candidate brought actually 15K more up as we actually talked about, which brought us all in a difficult situation because that was not in the budget. So the client wanted to have the candidate, but they had to think about a solution, and they have been, of course, disappointed from that situation. So it took us 3 or 4 conversations, everyone, to sort this out. And at the end, they didn't increase the salary package, but offered something else. So, it's, do you really want to have such a start at the end with a negative situation because you made something up? So don't do it. And don't hide anything. Don't just come up with a number, because during that process, it might come up. They ask you again, and then you forgot the number that you actually mentioned because it's not the right salary package. And then, it's about honesty. They will feel like, okay, but he or she said 55 and now it's 70. But I remember I wrote down 55, something wrong. Why did he or she said that? So don't lie, be honest, because you want people, company, or recruiter to be honest to you as well. That's really important. Do you have questions on that?
That's a good, I would say, a very nice example of not to exaggerate and stay in, in this box, stick to your initial plan. Yeah, you might get yourself in trouble if you over exaggerate, right?
Yeah, of course, because just think about a very simple thing. You want people to be honest to you, so you be honest to them. Just find a way to, compromise. Maybe, for example, you say, you know what, I'm happy with 60 right now, or I'm happy with 80 right now. But what's the deal? Like, is it possible to improve after the appropriation time? Is it impossible to improve after 12 months being in the company? Just speak about it, because everyone wants to earn a good salary. That's nothing to hide, but don't make it really clear, and make sure that, yeah, you don't get in trouble when it comes to information that you pass forward, because at the end, it's not true. You get in trouble, and this, you always meet people twice in life. That's what I think.
think Tanya has a question. I'm sorry, have I interrupted?
Yeah, I just question about brutto netto, because you're talking about salaries. I'm not sure. It's always about brutto, yes?
Brutto, yeah. Yeah.
Always, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So no salary questions anymore?
Tanya has one.
Okay, Tanya. Yeah, go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the insight. I would want to ask if it happened to, like, because we are most of from WHU and MBA students, if you think that it's an argument that we get a higher qualification, say that in 3 months or in 5 months that we get our MBA qualification, you might be the highest, you have the highest qualifications in the whole department, and then you think it's a good point to talk to your superior or manager, say that, okay, now I have this and that, and how do you think about this argument?
So that in the existing company, that you then mentioned that you are actually progressing in the qualification and you would like to negotiate your salary, right?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's something that you can, of course, bring up, because you think about it. You are doing the MBA, and if you are happy in the company, then you should also bring it in, because you are happy, but you are doing something to extend your knowledge, your professional knowledge, and at the end, the company will, will benefit from that as well. So just make sure, or just look at the time situation. For example, if you are end of the year and maybe in January you will have your yearly appraisal, then maybe you wait for that appraisal, or if your half year appraisal. If this is something, that has been passed and you haven't mentioned that during that time, so when you finish your MBA, right? So just make sure that you don't come up with it, with a short notice, because you have to think about a company and the structure. It's a finance department, there are approval processes. Even a small company, when you talk straight to the MD, they have to, think, how can
the budget.
Yeah, how can we organize it? So if you not only wait for the right time, but try to catch the right time for that. That's my advice for that. And then that's a good argument to say, and even before that, if in 6 months time or in 3 months time, then bring it up, because your company will benefit from it. And then you can work and start again with a positive thing. Say that you are happy with the company, you are happy with the role. And now you are, gaining new knowledge, and bring up examples. And this is why you actually want to negotiate your salary again. And again, make sure that you think about what do you want. So I wouldn't recommend to go into, in that conversation saying, I just want to have a higher salary. And then what happens? What do you expect? That's a question, right? So be prepared for that as well. Make sure, what does it mean? What kind of salary increase do you want? What do you think it's realistic? And have a worst case and a best case situation for yourself, and make an offer. Like, when you say, I'm already with 70K and I want to have 75K. This is what I think, this is what I want to speak with you about. Very straight. That's important. And then this conversation will start, and that at least you want to have 3K. This is just an example, right? But at least you want to have 3K salary increase, or at least you want to have 5K salary increase. This is the worst case, and the best case is 5 or 8. Then just you can play around, with these figures, but at least you made up you have your thoughts already, right? Sorted. That's important.
I have like 2 small questions according to these. And do you think that it's better to negotiate with monthly salary, or what sounds better, with the yearly annual salary or the monthly? Always. The
last one.
Okay.
Right away.
Okay.
Don't make it too complicated. Just don't bring it down. Don't break it down, just make an overall number and then just say the number. It's 5K on top of my yearly package, right? Or it's 10K
okay.
yearly package.
Okay.
Maybe I should have said that before, but if I'm talking about numbers, I'm usually talking about yearly packages in brutto, so 70K for 12 months, for example, or in the package. But 5K on top on the yearly package from 70 to 75. So this is something that makes it easier for everyone.
Yeah, because I heard that every recruiter or every like a coach, they say different things. Some people, they say you should say about percentage. Some people, they say you should say on the top of it, I want to X, Y, 3,000 euro, 30,000 euro, or 20,000 euro annually. I also heard one thing is about from a recruiter. So from a recruiting company, they say that sometimes you can also mention to a company or to your manager, say that you want a staff loan. They say sometimes you can say that, okay, in 12 months, I want the 5%, and in 24 months, I want another 10%. Do you think this is also in general that acceptable for German company, that this staff loan contract?
Yeah, just one answer again on what you've said with different people say different things. That's what I said at the beginning, and it's really important. You might, explain to someone. I talked to a recruiter yesterday during that talk and seminar and webinar, and she said this, and then this person says, oh, I wouldn't do that. So this is based on the experience we have, and at the end you have to be comfortable with the things that you say, right? It's all about yourself and it's your negotiation, it's your role. So that's important. If you feel like this doesn't feel right, then you have to think about a different solution. So Staffelungen, as you said, are acceptable, of course. It just depends, when do you do it? If you are already working 5 years in a company and then you say, okay, I want to have, in the next 3 years, I want to see how much I can earn more, then you have to see the full picture. Like, what's my next career step? Maybe do I earn more if I maybe finish my MBA? Is there a possibility for a promotion in my role? Because often a promotion means also a salary increase. So just first of all, get the full picture. And once you have that, then speak with your supervisor, team lead, or your boss about that situation. And again, make a best case scenario and a worst case scenario for yourself. What makes you happy? Okay, because the bad thing would be you get out of that meeting and you feel like, okay, at the end, it's not what I actually wanted. But then it's difficult to, get back into that situation 2 days later and say, okay, I'm not happy. There's always the possibility, but that's not what you actually want. So it is possible. If you're working already a couple of years in a company, speak with your boss about it and feel like, okay, I need progress. I need to find out what's possible for me. What are the next steps? And usually there is somehow, during your appraisal, or even if you enter in a company, it's always possible to find out what's the next step. A company should be very transparent about this. What do you need to do to get the next promotion? What do you need to do just to earn more money? What do you have to bring in for that? So have a negotiation. And at the end, if you're talking about percentages or about the money itself, like 5K, 10K, 15K, that doesn't matter, as long you get to the number that you want, right? So whatever makes you comfortable to argue with, percentages or money-wise, like if you're talking in case, then that's fine, but be aware of the next steps. The overall picture. Is there a promotion coming? What's the next step in that company? And then we have also, I have to check what's in English, Tarifverträge. Simona, do you know what's Tarifverträge in English?
Tariff level.
Is it? Yeah. So
It's a
tariff
I
rate.
think it's tariff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So if you are working for bigger companies, they have, or you know, some sectors, they have tariff rates, and there is a, you know, limit also for your boss to bring you on that to the next tariff. But these are things that you can speak about during your appraisal and during your interview process, to just clarify, okay, what's possible? I need to know what's possible. Does it make sense for you, Tanya, or does this answer your question a bit?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Atena, I think in this context, we have another interesting question. It's not necessarily related to salary, but it is, again, you know, stepping to perhaps the next level. The question is, if we search for a new job, how much higher should we go in terms of the position? Yeah. For example, can we apply for a manager position if we would better apply, or would it be better if you apply for a junior manager? I think this is also a question that wanted to be asked before.
Yeah, that's also a good question, because that's the reality. And I have to be honest with you, my answer won't make you happy, because there is no straight answer. The thing is, you know, the market is so different. Are you applying for a role in a small company? And if this is the case, what kind of levels do they have? Maybe a manager role there is completely different than, you know, working for a, you know, medium-sized or a big company. Like, are you applying for a role in a startup? Then you might be the head of for something, but then you change to a bigger company, and it's the head of might be a senior consultant or whatever. So it's really difficult to give you an answer that you can actually take with yourself through your whole interview application process. I think the most important thing here is to look on your own experience and what is the next level that you want to enter. And also, is title important for you? That's really, really important, because you can have a manager title and being on a high level in a company, and then you can have a manager title somewhere else and it's maybe not that high. So it really depends on the circumstances and the organization of that company. So just compare it and just have a look on the sector, on the size of the company, and then what a good thing to research for that is, for example, on LinkedIn. If you are interested in a company, you can also look on the people that are working on the company. Just go through the titles they have and the things that you find under the names, like what kind of titles do they have, what kind of levels can you see if you screen it, so that you get a first idea, and then you go ahead. But first of all, again, you have to look, where are you? How many years of experience do you have? What do you expect? Do you think that the next level is having a team and leading someone? Maybe that's also in a manager role. Or do you think the next one is more content-wise? I want to go deeper technically in a specific topic. I want to find out how to implement SAP in a company, right? So this is something that you have to find out for yourself. But if we go on a theory, very, you know, and I'm not looking on the reality, of course, you are entering in a, you know, associate, then you have as an associate maybe somewhere, and then you go to the consultant and then senior consultant role, if this is what the company is offering you. If you're not sure and you feel like you're reading a job description and the task itself, you know, you like what you read and you feel like, okay, this fits to what I expect, what I want to do in my next step, but the title sounds weird, then just apply and and once you are in an interview, ask for that question. I just ask that question. What's the next step? How do you organize yourself? Like, what is the next level? How is the career path? Just go ahead and ask that question, because every company has a different structure. And I don't ask now if this if this answer just actually answered your question, because it's a little bit difficult, but I hope you understand what I mean. If not, just raise your hand again, whoever asked that question, so that we can again speak about it.
I think it was sent to me privately, but if the person who sent it wants to ask something, I think she can ask.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, right. It was me. So I saw an open job description. Was super interesting. Was exactly what I wanted to do, but I was way too junior for that position. And I sent it to a friend, and she was just like, "Yeah, I would not apply. It's really too senior." But I decided to apply, and then the position was closed. But then they transferred me, and perhaps that's a nice link to the salary discussion. So they put me on a more junior level, but now I'm afraid that my salary expectation was also too high. Do you think salary, like the first indicator you give, is let's say in German K.O.-Kriterium to kick you out of the process?
I know what you mean. And this is also the reason why some people have a doubt about writing the salary into that application, right? Because you write it down and then maybe you don't get an answer. I know this is a difficult thing. At the end, if you are honest, if you are in a company and earning 50K, and then you apply for a role and you feel like, okay, I want to have at least 60K or at least 57K. And you have to, because there are systems where you have to fill in that number, okay? Then you should fill in that number, otherwise you can't process or progress, I mean. And if you just have to send out your CV and there is the question about salary, if you don't answer, if you're not sure, then maybe don't answer that question. That's what I think. And at the end, if the CV is good, if the person who reads your CV feels like everything in that CV fits to that role, they will call you. They won't kick you out because you haven't mentioned a salary. And they won't kick you out if you miss maybe the salary ranking that they have for 5K or something, right? So if everything else fits, they will call you. If you, of course, say instead of 50K, you want to have 80K and you write that down, then it's not realistic. And then of course they will say, okay, if someone is not realistic, then why it doesn't make sense to speak about it, because at the end, what's the motivation for a change is only money. And we need someone in that role who is not only money driven, but also content driven. So, what I mean with that, usually companies won't kick you out if you miss a salary with, just a little number, because instead of 55, you say 60 and they have a budget of 55. They will speak and negotiate because they know they will find a deal with you. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Good. Yeah, you see, it's, I'm repeating myself a lot because there are things that come up always and always, and they repeat, and at the end, it's always the same. You have to be sure what you expect. You have to be sure which way you want to go and what's your current situation. That's really, really important. And at the end, it's of course important to find out, what does it worth to working with, with a recruitment consultancy, or do I go my own way? And that's, there are different views on that. Of course, a recruitment consultancy might have a bigger network than you have. They might have a better market knowledge than you have because they are familiar with the region, with the companies that are around. So I think that it's always good to, you know, go both ways. If you have, for example, a friend who's working already in a company that you would like to apply for, then check with your friend. Does it make sense to get the right connection through your friend? Why do you need to go through, you know, an anonymous application process if you have already someone in that company? Or why do you need to go through a recruitment company if you have already someone? But if you're not sure, if you are moving into a different city and you are not familiar with the market, or to a different country, that's always good to get connected with a recruitment consultancy. But even if you are, you know, home-based locally, just find out what the recruitment company is actually offering. So what are the disciplines that the consultancy is specialized in? That's important, because if you find someone, and you are in IT and you find someone that is not really specialized in IT, and you know, spend time with this person, it doesn't make sense, because maybe the person, or this person might not be able to help you because they don't have the specialization within that field. So check always the website. Do you find the jobs that you would apply for on a company site? And if this is the case, then it makes sense to speak with that recruitment consultancy. Check the consultant's LinkedIn and Xing profile, because then you can see what kind of content, what kind of knowledge, and what kind of jobs do they offer in the market, right? So, for example, when I started working or changed my role from the head of marketing in the recruitment marketing, it helped because before I built up my team, I started talking to candidates about, you know, online marketing, and we started working for companies looking for SEO and SEA marketing, or different digital marketing roles. But because, you know, I have done that role, I know what kind of work behind, you know, what kind of work there is behind this role. I could speak with the candidates and I could speak with the companies. So everyone felt a little bit familiar with me, and that's why, you know, I could train my team, and we hired people who come from that section. So what I want you to check when you speak to consultancies, are they familiar with your topic, or maybe do they even know what you are talking about? Do they ask the right questions? If you feel you're talking to someone who is asking, what does this, you know, mean? What did you say? What is SEO? What is this, you know, short, what are the buzzwords meaning that you are talking about? Then you feel like, okay, this person is not familiar with your sector, then that might be the wrong person. So are you speaking the right language, job language? And does this person understand your role? And does this person ask the right question? And then also ask, what is the process? For example, if you get headhunted, always ask about the role. Is there a role behind it? So you have to make sure that there is a job behind the interview, otherwise it doesn't make sense. And sometimes, of course, recruitment consultancy, and this is what happens to me as well. I accidentally get in touch with someone, or I see a LinkedIn profile and I feel like, well, this is interesting, that profile of this person. And we have roles coming always, you know, that might fit to that person. Then I get in touch and we are honest. We tell them we don't have a role right now, so I don't get in touch with you because of a job, but I would like to get in touch with you and speak about what your expectations are. So next time, if we have a role, we will come back to you. So we open up a conversation. That's important. And you have to feel like there is a process behind that conversation. Do they offer me roles? Look at their website, just, you know, reference check with that company and make sure that it's the right recruitment consultancy and that they are familiar with what you are doing. And if you find a consultancy that had a good conversation with, they started to offer you roles, and it might happen that it didn't work out for the first one, but maybe the next one, and even the next one will be 3 months later. The expectation shouldn't be that they give you every day a job. That's not the case, because if you look on Stepstone, there's not always every day a new job online as well. So you have to stay in touch, and you have to see the long term. If it doesn't work now, maybe it works next month, or in 3 months, or in 2 years, or in 1 year. So it's a networking opportunity that gives you a lot of value, because you get insights, ask questions, and keep in touch. If you found someone, keep in touch. Go to the events that they offer, have a catch up once in a while, digital, or if it's in the same city, coffee dates, lunch. This is something that every recruitment consultancy actually should offer. What we are doing as well is we meet people. Before Corona, we met them in person. And once it's possible, we try to get back to that situation, but now we just e-meet. Ask for feedback. If you go through your CV, just ask for feedback on how did you present yourself? What can you do better? What can you change? And ask for advices. And if you found someone that you trust in, then before you apply for a role on a company side, double check with your recruitment consultant, because maybe this recruitment consultant already has a connection to that company. Maybe they know the team heads, maybe they know the CEO, or maybe they already placed candidates there. So then they can give you a full insight. So it should be a partnership. You should feel that you get information from the company, from the market, and they will accompany you through that process. And you be patient, because this might not happen at the very first day, but if this is a professional company, then this will happen. So you just need time, but it's also an effort that you have to put in. You have to be open for that conversation, and you have to be honest as well in every regard, when it comes to the changes you have made in your CV, when it comes to the salary, and when it comes to every other point of your professional life. If you need advice, your recruitment consultancy should be able to advise you in the topics where you need help with. Do you have any further questions on that?
I think Pichaya wants to say something. I hope I pronounced the name correctly.
Yes, this is Pichaya. First of all, Tena, thank you so much for the presentation. I really enjoy it. Great. And yes, I have a question for you. Since you're specializing in recruiting for a marketing position, I would like to ask if you have any insight about the hard or soft skills or a position of like digital marketer, which would be advantage in the current German market, like from your experience, like especially for MBA students.
Mm-hmm. So the core topics within digital marketing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can give you a short overview just to make sure, because I'm not sure if everyone in that round, I see we have almost 30 people, 33 people who are listening to us, to make sure that they don't feel bored about digital marketing, because I'm not sure where they are coming from. But, the thing is, the interesting part of nowadays is that almost all disciplines are somehow connected. Marketing, sales, IT, finance, because of the digitalization and innovation that has been, progressing the last years. So maybe, Pichaya, one overall answer to that might be interesting for everyone, and then I give you information about digital marketing as well, is that make sure that you're always up to date on the topics you are working with, right? If you are MBA students, so you are already learning new topics, new techniques, new systems. but it's really important that you talk about it in your interview as well. So talk about what you have learned, talk about what's interesting for you, and make sure, and this is now an example, for example, for digital marketing, if you are speaking to a head of digital or a chief digital officer, that you, in your speech, in your conversation, you bring up everything that, you know, makes digital important, so that the person that you're speaking with understands that you are up to date. That's really, really important, that they see, okay, you see the full picture on the market at the current situation. So try to get out of the old maybe systems of what have been, you know, in your disciplines 3 years ago or 5 years ago. So just make sure that everything, that people that you're talking about feel like you are up to date. So in digital marketing, it can be everything. It can be UX, UI, SEO, SEA. There are a couple of topics that might be important. People want to know, and I'm sure that this is the same for IT and finance. People want to know what kind of systems are you working with? How, you know, deeply are you into your work? Do you work with agencies, or do you have people that do the work for you, or are you doing it on your own? So that's really important, that you show that you are operating, that you are the person who, that you are hands-on, and that you are aware of the current topics, yeah, AI topics, for example, or new digital systems, and just because that's a picture of yourself. Show your interests and make sure that the person you're speaking with understands who you are, and that you are always, you know, up to date about what's going on in your discipline. And if you need a little bit more hints about digital marketing, Pichaya, I can, for example, suggest that we speak in a separate call maybe around that, and then I can give you also advices for digital marketing roles, and you can ask more specific questions that might help you for your MBA. Is that okay for you?
Yes, that sounds really good. And probably I'll add you through LinkedIn then.
Yeah,
I'll join that call with the digital marketing.
Yeah, everyone in that round, please feel free to get connected. And as I said at the beginning, if you need someone in different sections, if you need advice in finance, advice in engineering, or any other section, banking, financial services, feel free to let me know. If we have colleagues who are doing that, I'm happy to get you connected with them. Look at our website. If you find a role that's interesting for you, apply for that role, or just drop me a line and I'm happy to get you connected.
Thank you so much, Atena.
You're welcome.
Atena, I received another question, which is very great to hear from your experience. So the question is, after applying for a position, how long should we wait before making the follow-up? And what is the best way to follow up? Because, you know, sometimes we don't want to bother, or we don't want to show them that we want that position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's good to show, it's not good to show. So how we can make this?
Yeah, the thing is that companies need to be aware that we have candidate shortage on the market. So if someone, and I'm exaggerating right now again, but if someone doesn't reply on your application 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, then they missed something. Then they have a big issue, because someone who's actively looking for a role usually doesn't want to wait 4 weeks. So what I suggest, you can see how professional a company is actually, because nowadays, if you apply for a role, you first of all get an automatic reply that your CV and application has been received by the company, right? So you know, okay, everything is done from your part, so you can tick that off. And then it really depends. If it's, you know, a big company, you know what, let me think out loud. It shouldn't depend of if big companies or not, because everyone should react on a time. So when we, you know, forward or recommend a candidate to a client, we usually get feedback 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. You know, we are talking about days, unless someone is on vacation, and then you know, okay, it takes maybe 2 weeks, but then you inform the candidates. So maybe in summertime or in Christmas time, you know, when we have seasonal times and vacations, just wait a little bit, have a bit patient, and then just, you know, try to get in touch. I would always call if after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and you know, that's just a feeling. I can't tell you an exactly day right now, but if it's a smaller company, I would, after 2 weeks, give them a call and just ask, I have applied on that day, but I didn't receive any answer. I just want to make sure that you have everything you need. And then they will check again. A tip that I want to give you is try to find out, and it's not always possible, but sometimes it is actually. So you have to investigate a little bit. Try to find out through social media, who do you actually apply, like who is the team head or who might be your future boss in that role. Sometimes the name is already in the advert, because you can ask them, you can call them and ask them for questions, or the title is in the advert, so that they say you are reporting into the head of, and then you can double check. So use that as an advantage, and then try to get in touch with that person. If it's, you know, I think even if it's a bigger company, this shows your proactiveness, right? It's always positive, because it's not that you're just sitting and waiting. You are proactively looking to get in touch. And there's no one who says, okay, how dare you to get in touch with me? If they don't reply, okay, then they missed something. But usually there's a positive response on that, because they feel like, wow, someone came back to me. So again, just wait maybe 2 weeks, and if you don't get any answer, just give them a call, the company a call, and try to get the information if they have received everything, and give it another try. And for example, if you go to this is something that for those who are interested in, you know, startups, for example, just always try to get in touch with the CEO or with the head of via LinkedIn. Just tell them before you apply for a role, and this is, you know, just my personal advice. If you feel like this is, you read a job offer somewhere on the website or on Stepstone, just get in touch with the right decision maker on LinkedIn and tell them, I've read that you're looking for someone, and I'm really keen to ask you some questions about the role. Are you open for a conversation? And then you see what they answer. They might say, oh, thanks. We have a program behind that. Can you please apply? Then that's okay, but at least they read your name. That's always positive. You know, so just try to be a little bit individual. If you have a small company where you want to join, so this is outstanding. You can't do it for every company size, of course, but maybe sometimes you try to figure out if, for example, events like fairs are coming up again, go and try to meet the most relevant people there, and make yourself, you know, present, so that they see that you are open to network. And that's also an advice that I can give you, actually, looking at the time of maybe my final one. I extended a little bit, but feel free to network. Networking is the most important thing. And I know some people, you know, maybe you are a network person and you want to, you know, you are happy with small talks, but then someone is maybe less. But just try to, then don't go alone to a network event, but nowadays, you know, currently you have e-events, so try to be part of it, because it can help you in every sense, knowledge-wise, because you get a little bit knowledge about the topic that you're interested in, and also you get connected with people. So that's really important. Any further questions? Anything that I forgot to mention?
Maybe, yes, the last question, we will wrap it up with Michael. And yeah, that would be the last question for today, I hope.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah. Hi, thank you, Atena. From my side also, you gave very, very interesting information, and this is really, really a great benefit. My question is, first at Robert Walters, how do you deal with interim management? And secondly, can you give some short background information about how's the market request for interim management in M&A and finance projects like M&A mergers that go from 3 months to 12 months right now?
There's a high demand and decrease since Corona, and not only for finance, but also, for example, for IT things, because all of the sudden companies realized, oh, damn, we are not prepared and we need people right now. And interim is actually the fireman in that situation, because, and I hope that expression in English makes sense, because Feuerwehrlösung. But anyway, it's the thing is that interim is really an upcoming thing, and we have a team of 3 people who are just working on that. So Michael, we should get in touch, and I bring you in touch. If this is something that's interesting for you, I definitely bring you in touch with them, because mainly they're focused on finance actually. So interim means kind of, it's a freelance work where people just get hired because they have to work for a specific role. And there are a lot of requests at this moment. I can't tell you a lot of the content about or deeply go into M&A, but I know that we have even more requests from companies, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, where we have to react very quickly. So it is a big possibility right now, and for that case, you have to be very well connected. And I think in this case, it even makes sense really to work with specialized recruiting, interim recruiting consultancy, because they have projects on demand, and they will call you. And if they know that you are someone that is working well, they can rely on you, they will always get back to you, because we have to be very quickly. If someone calls us, you actually have to bring someone in for the next day. So Michael, there's a big demand on that. So I would be happy to connect you with my colleague Thomas, who is based in Düsseldorf, and they will cover part of Germany. And we have in Frankfurt a big team who is covering a different part of Germany. So there's a huge demand for that, if this partly answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. If it's okay, I would connect you on LinkedIn, and then we can get in touch.
Definitely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and for everyone else who didn't really had the chance to ask, or felt like, okay, maybe or joined a bit later and felt like, okay, maybe she already talked about it or not, feel free to connect as a just summary of everything that I talked about the last 2 hours. And I said to Simona and Irina at the beginning, I think I just need 30 or 40 minutes to speak. But you see, first of all, there's a lot of things general things that we have to explain. And I think the most important thing is that you have to be sure about what do you want on your own. First of all, what's your expectation on yourself? If this is clear, you should start your application or interview process. You have to be able to explain your CV, your career path, the motivation for changes, and you have to be sure what's your current salary package. And then if you have the current situation, ticked off and it's visible, think about what's next. Why do I want to change? What's important for me? What do I want? What does make me happy? And how can I actually reach these things? Does it make sense to speak with my current employee, or do I have to look for a different role? And then just, work on that and go ahead. But first of all, be clear on your own. Make sure that you know what you want, because otherwise you can't explain it to a third party, and then you always get in trouble. So I wish everyone a lot of luck and on that, and I hope that everyone actually could get a little bit of insights. And if you have further questions, please get in touch and feel free to ask again.
Yes, thank you very much, Atena. I think this was a very insightful and interesting talk that you just gave us. And I'm very actually happy that we had such an interactive discussion that's also proven by the time we spent on it, right? I also hope that our participants found this session quite interesting and quite informative. And we were always happy to have them join our Start the Conversation talk. I would like to thank everyone one more time, and not to forget to invite you on 15th of September. We're already starting our hybrid sessions in Düsseldorf in our campus, and whoever wants to join our next sessions is more than welcome. And with that, I would like to conclude this session and wish everyone nice holidays if they're about to start them, and a very nice evening as well. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, Simona.
Thank you.
And everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Goodbye.
Stay healthy. That's the most
You
important.
too, Atena.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
One moment. Okay, super.
Did you stop recording?